Welcome to the channel. I am Stuart and I am your middle-aged hack. Child of the 80s just trying to make it through the 20s. And this happens to be the very first video on this channel. So I'm not quite sure where we're going with it. And as time goes on, if you subscribe, you'll take that journey with me. And that's what this is all about. So let's get started. The news of the day is that Tesla has said now that their long-range Model 3 will qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. They also made a few changes to the pricing, and that means that the long range now is about $1,000 more than the rear-wheel drive. So why would you want the rear-wheel drive, and should you feel bad about it if you already got the rear-wheel drive? As you know, I did. The first question is, should you feel bad? No, you should not, because the Model 3 rear-wheel drive is a great car. I've owned the previous generation long range, and this beats it in pretty much every way. Yeah, there's a little bit less range technically, but because it's got the LFP battery, then, you know, it's got just about the same range at 100% that the Model 3 long range had at 80%. So the truth is that your average usable range is going to be about the same. I've listened to the sound system on both, and the sound system on the rear-wheel drive beats the old premium sound system on the long range easily and handily. The acceleration, okay. Not as fast as the current generation long range, but the same as the previous generation long range. And okay, here's where I really need to back up a little bit. A lot of us are going to say, oh, I want the long range because, and I get it. You know, for only $1,000 more, maybe that's kind of what you want to do. I wouldn't blame you at all. But what do you get when you get the long range as opposed to the rear-wheel drive? You get faster acceleration, yes. You get a better sound system, yes. A few other touches like floor mats, for example. Floor mats don't come standard on the rear-wheel drive, which I think is a mistake from Tesla's point of view. I think they could have included them for a very low price and wouldn't have made any difference, but not the point. So let's sit down and really be honest with ourselves. Me, I am never, ever going to take advantage of the acceleration of even the rear-wheel drive. Never mind the long range. In all the years that I had the previous generation long range, and I had one of the very first ones, you know, I maybe took it 0 to 60 in its maximum speed, maybe once, maybe twice. In average everyday driving, this car is faster than almost any Corvette made before about 1995. It's faster than 90+ % of cars on the road. It's as fast as you need it. And if you think, okay, I really want to have that, 3 seconds, 0 to 60, okay, that's fine. You're going to shred a lot of tires doing it. And chances are, if you pay for it, you're probably not going to use it. Let's talk a minute about the sound system. So I'm of a certain age, and chances are you might be too if you're watching this channel. You can tell by the hair on top of my head, such as it is, that I'm no spring chicken. And there might have been a time that I could tell the difference between the rear-wheel drive sound system and the long-range sound system at any reasonable volume. That time is long gone. I'm super pleased with the sound system in the current rear-wheel drive. It's got all the bass that your average person is going to need. If you need super thumpity-thump bass, that's up to you. I know I don't. And that's why I have absolutely no problem with the rear-wheel drive. But what about today? What about if you haven't bought yours yet? If you haven't made that decision, should you jump in for the long range. So I'm recording this in June of 24. And as I record this, yeah, they just said that they're going to qualify for the tax credit, but there's a lot of long-range Teslas still in the pipeline that don't qualify for the tax credit. So if you put in your order now and you want to be sure you qualify for the tax credit, you might be going through a few things to make sure that your VIN actually qualifies. There's no guarantee right now. Now, maybe if you wait 3 or 4 months, they'll have worked through all that pipeline stuff. But then again, by then, maybe the rear-wheel drive will qualify for the tax credit too. And at that point, the change in prices are going to be about the same. And you'll have a better decision to make as far as what you want to do, what you don't want to do. It just is going to make a lot more sense at that point. Should you wait? Well, that really is up to you. Right now, as I'm recording this in June of 24, Tesla's got great financing, 1.99, 2.99. You can't beat it. And even other major car manufacturers aren't doing that stuff much anymore, but Tesla is. And there's no guarantee that they will. Of course, we've all been through this too, where we see Tesla is, if you buy today, they're going to drop the price tomorrow, and you don't know if that's going to happen because they could just as easily raise the price tomorrow. You don't know. The timing is up to you, but you shouldn't feel bad about putting in your order now. If you really want to get that tax break on the long range, though, you're going to have to wait probably about 4 months to be really safe. That's the future. You don't know how that's going to work out. So think about it. Make a decision that makes the most sense to you. I personally am super happy with the rear-wheel drive. There is nothing more that I could ask out of a car, and it's a ton better than the older long range, which I paid $11,000 more for. Now think about that. In 2018, think about what you were paying for a Big Mac or a gallon of gas or whatever, and think about what you're paying for that stuff now. And in that time, Teslas have come down in price, and you get a better car for $11,000 less. You cannot feel bad about that. I know I can't anyway. And there's a lot of other things that you have to consider, not just price. It's quality. It's how you're going to use the car. It's whether or not there's a charging infrastructure in your area. This is all stuff that you need to think about if you are going to consider buying a Tesla. One more question people have is, okay, so now they say the long range qualifies to the tax credit, and does that mean that the long range I have just dropped in resale value by $7,500? Possibly. But this stuff is fluid. Back during the days of lockdown, electric car prices were up through the roof. Resale values were ridiculous. There was a point I could have sold my 2018 long range for more than I paid for it, which is kind of absurd, right? For a used car. And so, okay, resale value is probably going to take a hit in the short term, but you shouldn't care because all that's theory. That's made up money. As long as you still have the car and you're still using the car, why do you care what the resale value is going to be until you're ready to sell it? That's the only time you have to be considering resale value. And there's probably a lot of things that are going to happen down the road between then and now. You're going to see other manufacturers coming up with sub $30,000 electric cars. You're going to see a change in customer demand, and you could see, depending on politics, which this channel is not about politics, depending on politics, you could see that rebate going away anyway, and that would mean probably that resale values did jump up. Too many factors to consider in the future when you think about what resale value is going to be when you're ready to trade in the car. That's the only time that you really need to think about it, honestly. I'll say it again. The Tesla Model 3 is a great car. Is it a perfect car? No, it is not. It's still a little bit beta-y, and it still doesn't quite work the way that you wanted to hope that it would work. Full self-driving, isn't. You really have to pay attention. It's not just like, oh, you can get in the back seat and it'll take you somewhere. That was promised almost a decade ago, and it'll probably be a decade before it comes. Who knows? But honestly, it's a great car. It's a blast. It's fun to drive. It's easy on the cost to operate. In my last car in 6 years, I paid a grand total of, I think, $80 for maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of upsides to this car, and also maybe you're going to find better build quality on a Toyota or a Mercedes or something from a different manufacturer. And you're going to be thinking about the politics of the guy who's most closely associated with Tesla. If you like his politics, if you like what he's been doing lately, if you don't, which I think a lot of people don't, that's going to weigh on you. But in the end, you can't go wrong, in my opinion, with a Tesla Model 3. There's just so much to like about it. And with a Tesla Model 3, even before you talk about rebates, thinking about the fact that it's about $6,000 to $7,000 less than the average price of any new car today, and you get an electric with all this extra stuff, you absolutely cannot feel bad about that. Anyway, folks, this is it for this video. Do me a real favor. I'm just starting this channel up, and I sure would appreciate a subscription. Like and subscribe, because I'm trying to build this up to the point where I can monetize it as quickly as possible. Tell all your friends about it. youtube.com/middleagedhack. It's here where you're going to find a lot of attitude, a lot of interesting stuff, and honestly, I'm not even quite sure what it's going to be like. But take the journey with me. Thanks an awful lot, and I'll see you next time.